Hey guys, Desler Magic here, and it's finally time for part 5, covering the green cards that are exceptionally powerful at the pre-release. Remember, some cards that look absolutely atrocious in Standard, aka Constructed, they're actually really good in Sealed. Removal is the absolute king, and any kind of, screw with your opponent's board state cards are pretty good too. Unfortunately, green doesn't have many of those, but it does have some pretty good cards. Not a terribly high volume of them, but still, some pretty nice cards. So let's start with Pounce. It's what I would consider an extremely unreliable creature removal. So target creature you control fights target creature you don't control, so they both take damage. It's not just, oh, you deal damage equal to its power. So if you had a creature big enough that it would have survived, you probably would have just been swinging with it. So if they have a 4/4 and you have a 5/5 and they chose not to block it, they're dead in 4 turns. If you have a creature that's too small to take out a creature, or if it's a trade, once again, you probably could have just swung with it. I mean, yeah, they might drop an instant on you, but, this card just doesn't do any better. So it just amplifies a good board state, which I don't like that. I like cards that are control cards that can turn a game around. But if they're absolutely refusing to block with something, or they're sitting on, I don't know, some kind of creature that's a glorified enchantment, and they're just using its ability, this will take it out. So I would still put it in. Plus, it costs 2 and it's an instant. That's not bad. You can pile on more damage by, force fighting in the middle of combat after somebody blocks, and then dealing the remainder of their toughness in damage with first strike, and then they would be dead without touching your second creature. So not the best, but hey, creature removal is creature removal, and it only costs 2. Next up, Snapping Sailback. It's a 4/4 for 5 with flash, which is kind of nice because you can throw it out there in the path of some little 3/3 and take it out. So it's kind of creature removal, but it's also reasonably, costed, reasonably good creature. Also, the funny thing is, whenever it is dealt damage, put a 1/1 counter on it. So even if you didn't kill a creature by flashing it in and blocking, you could just take damage from a 1/1 or something, and then, oh, now you've got a 5/5 for 5. So then they have to deal with that. So overall, just a really good creature. Now keep in mind too, Enrage can go off multiple times, so after that they could, be forced to block, and now it's a 6/6. Now in that case, you're probably going to win the game anyway, but whatever. Next up, the guy from that tobacco commercial, Emperor's Vanguard. It costs 4 and it's a 4/3, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it explores. Hopefully you recall what that does. So it could get bigger and bigger over time, or it could ramp mana. Either way, you're going to know what card is next, and that's kind of nice. So the potential to get bigger than a 4/3 and then already being a 4/3 at 4, that's not bad. I mean, still, a 4/3 for 4 isn't that great in green, but it's not terrible. Next up, Carnage Tyrant. Oh boy, a mythic. It does cost 6, so it's not amazingly likely to get out, but 6 is reasonable. Like I said, it's a dead card in your opening hand, though, and I don't like that. But it's an overpowering board dominator because it's a 7/6. Now, also, it can't be countered, it has trample, and it has hexproof. They are not getting rid of this unless they have creatures on the field. And even then, they better have Death Touch or something, or they better triple block, or just have a giant creature or something. Either way, trample is going to put something through in all likelihood. So if this looks familiar, this is a very slightly improved version of Plated Crusher, which is awesome because it was from, I believe, BFZ, and I didn't want to lose it. That's just a good card, and I put it in a bunch of decks. So I think actually Plated Crusher costs 7. So this is really good. And yeah, it's a mythic, it makes sense. I think it's going to be a couple dollar mythic too. I think people are actually going to play with it. Next up, Deathguard Scavenger. Whenever it enters battlefield or attacks, you may exile target card from a graveyard. So any card, any graveyard. If the creature card is exiled this way, or if a creature card is exiled this way, you gain 2 life. If a non-creature card, which would include land, is exiled this way, it gets 1/1 till end of turn. So the second one isn't great, and it is already a 3/2 for 3. But the potential for the 2 life to go off is amazing, and you already know which card you're going to pick, and the graveyard should be pretty stuffed during a pre-release. So I think everything about that is absolutely fantastic. Next up, Ripjaw Raptor. It's a 4/5 for 4, which is already damn good, and it has Enrage, so whenever it is dealt damage, you draw a card. Holy crap, is that good? I mean, that is just amazing. Now you're probably noticing a theme that I mentioned a while back on my channel. Every damn one of these cards costs way the hell too much. If you're going to play green, make sure you either mix it with a color that has a low end, or make sure you put in cards that would be considered a low end. You're gonna need some 2-cost and 3-cost cards. You can't just throw in power and then cross your fingers and hope some lands show up. Getting to 4 or 5 land is far beyond what you could expect in your opening hand, and then you could hit a non-mana pocket of, 6, 7 cards and just lose the game with nothing on the field. Otherwise, if you got the support for it, throw this in. Next up, Jungle Delver, one of the weirdest looking merfolk I've ever seen. It's a 1/1 for 1, but if you pay 4, you put a counter on it permanently, so not technically a pump spell, but wow, this is the anti-top decking card right here. The second that you don't have anything to spend your 4 mana on, boom, make it bigger. And there's always a threat that you could make it bigger if you have 4 mana open, even if you had something better to do during your second main phase. But your opponent doesn't know that, so they might let it through, and then, okay, you don't pay for the counter, and then there you go. Do whatever you're going to do with the mana second main phase, and then repeat next turn. So it's just a really, really good card. Next up, Deeproot Warrior. Whenever Deeproot Warrior becomes blocked, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and it's a 2/2 for 2. So if they're going to block it, it's a 3/3. Not much more past that. This would be considered a perfect low end. I wish it did 3 damage, but honestly, a vanilla 3/3 for 2 on Tribal would be kind of powerful. So this is a nice compromise. It's basically 2.5 power, but yeah, preventing yourself from getting blocked is kind of the key at pre-release. So yeah, I would absolutely include this. Next up, another rare, unfortunately. It's a 4-cost 3/3 Merfolk Shaman. And Waker of the Wilds has X and then green. Put X 1/1 counters on target land you control. That land becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with haste. It's still a land. That's kind of cool. So, I mean, late game, if you're running out of creatures or all the creatures in your deck suck or you're sick of swinging with her because she's only a 3/3 for 4, you can just take, 7 mana and make a 5/5 creature out of one of your lands. And it kind of goes together. If you had enough mana that you have enough to pump a ton into X, then you don't really care if one of your lands gets, killed effectively. So you could just do this over and over and over every single turn until you've got a whole bunch of like 5/5, 6/6s, maybe 4/4s on the battlefield, and yeah, you could just run them over. So yeah, this is a darn good card. Next up, Crash the Ramparts. See, they should have made that little fence dinosaur proof. It's just a good card. It's basically a kill spell. It costs 3 and it's an instant, but at least it's single green. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. You could use this defensively to kill one of the creatures that's swinging. You could use it offensively. Either way, it's 3 on the toughness and the power. You would lose the benefit of trample on blocking, but still, this is just a really good way to kill a creature if they think they have a superior board state. Like, they've got a 4/4, you've got a 2/2, so they're like, ha, I can swing away and win in 5 turns, woo. Nope, block, kill it, and you're still alive. Simple. With that being a common, I expect to see it, and you should too. Next up, Merfolk Branchwalker, which doesn't make sense. I thought Merfolks like to swim. But it's a 2/1 for 2, and whenever it enters the battlefield, it explores, which means it could be a 3/2 for 2. Or, at 2 mana, you could ramp into another land. Either one is good. Now, I like predictability. I don't like, chaos and unpredictability, but either one of those would be good, and it's not like you're trying to do a central theme. It's not a constructed deck. You're not like, oh, all my creatures have to have counters because I have 12 cards that say if every creature has counters, blah. No, it's just like, I'll take a land, I'll take a bigger creature. Either one's fine. Yay, welcome to pre-release. And that is it for green. So you might have noticed a whole bunch of these cards cost a ton of mana, and a whole bunch of them are rares, which means green looks good in theory, but not really, because will you actually pull these cards, and then will you be able to build a deck around these cards? I would say no. So red and white are the strongest colors, most universal, most easy to pull. I think white's still the overall leader, but that doesn't mean don't look at your green pile. I would just assess your white pile and then your red pile first. Black, it would be a miracle if you made something out of that. And then, what do we got? Blue is just kind of okay. I mean, it's always lacking in attack power, and it doesn't have like straight up creature kill control. So overall, I mean, I'm going to consider every single card I pull. I'm not saying outright don't look at a color, because you never know. You could pull 3 rares that are all amazing, and that's enough to carry the color. For the record, that's usually not enough to carry the color, but if it was something on par with like Gisela or something, oh my god. But I mean, there's so many mistakes people make. Don't just look at your rares and mythics and base your colors on that. Don't just go into pre-release saying I'm going to run these 2 colors no matter what. That's idiotic. And it is perfectly legal to change your deck up between rounds. That is perfectly legal. You can permanently alter your deck if something is not working, or if you misread a card, or if you accidentally didn't put enough lands, or you made the number 1 mistake, which is not putting enough creatures in. If any of that is the case, or you're too high costed, you're getting run over by speed decks, make a change to your deck. You can swap out an entire color. That's why when I pre-sleeve my basic lands, I will keep them pre-sleeved. And if I had to swap a color, I would. I've never had to do it, but it's nice because you might be running out of time. Although if you lost in the first 10 minutes of the round, you got all the time in the world, and then, yeah, you should probably reassess your deck at that point. So, good luck at the pre-release. I just don't have the time to cover the colorless artifacts and all the mixed colors and all that, but whatever. You guys know what's good at this point by watching these 5 videos. So, good luck to you all, and I'll see you guys next video.